we do like to get into people's like first crush or first love and first heartbreak, and we'd love to hear your experiences.
Oh my God, of course. Well, when I was like 12, 13, I had some crushes on. I have this album that I put out called Honeymind that came out a couple months ago, and it has a song on it. Thank you. It has a song on it called Andrew, which is about like when you're young and you develop a crush on a straight guy, and it's so hopeless because it's like he didn't do anything wrong and he's not like teasing you or anything. It's just like the chemistry is not there, and you don't know what to do with these feelings, and they have nowhere to go, and it's like this weird kind of melancholy. So most of my first experiences were that of like this like cute boy named David, who in 7th grade, who was like had abs and was like so cute, and like like and like
the boys
couldn't have been
have
straighter. I know, it's like all of a sudden you're like, that's a thing we can do. And I was like,
is that an 8-pack?
You know, lots of butterflies for David, but obviously unrequited because he was straight. And this kid Robert, same thing, like lovely, really kind to me, really nerdy and smart, but like ultimately straight. The first time that it was like something connected was I think 13, and I was at summer camp, and there was one other queer kid who I started to realize was the other queer kid, and his name was Oz Fishman, and he was like way more experienced and like knew a lot more about stuff than I did, and was like flirting before I even understood that that's what he was doing, and like I got this feeling of like I should spend more time with him and I should find time to be alone with him, but I don't know why. And,
such a funny description of middle school.
It's true. And so I kept trying to find, which is hard at summer camp when there's counselors all the time, so I kept trying to find moments to be alone. And then this one day we like skipped, I think it was, I'm sure it was sports, but we skipped some like programming for the day and like stayed in the cabin and like snuck back to like hang out. And that's when he kissed me for the first time, and I was like all at once, like no idea this was coming, like I didn't know this is a thing people do, like this feels bizarre, I don't know how to do this, and also like absolutely what I was hoping for and waiting for and why I stayed back. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thing where you're like, if they had asked me 10 minutes before, it'd have been like, I don't know, I'm just like, I have butterflies, and he like, I don't want to go to sports, like I want to stay. But I think as soon as it happens, you're like, oh, I've been leading myself to this. So that was my first like nice, relatively undramatic, sweet little moment.
What happened in the moments after?
I freaked out, and our counselor came in like pretty soon after, so we didn't have much time to like. Yeah. Also, when you're that age, you like kiss like for 30 seconds, and then you're like, okay.
I know that's what I'm imagining.
30 seconds, bro.
I'm imagining.
That's a long time.
I feel like there's
that's
always
a long
awkward.
time. Oz was experienced, I get it.
It's like, what do we do? I guess we go back now.
Literally, it was just like, let's walk back to everyone else. And then kind of every successive summer after that, since we were consistently the only queer people in our age group, we would just like pretend we weren't going to do it for the whole summer, and then towards the end be like, I guess we're just going to like make out again because we're the only ones here. But it was a nice on track to the rest.
I'm curious, coming home from that that outing, literally and figuratively, like at camp, the nerves of returning home and feeling like you've really entered this new phase, nerves about like the reception of your family. I mean, I'm not saying that you had to go run out and tell them, but you know what I mean?
Totally. Absolutely. I think as I started to figure it out, and as we had a kiss and all this, I was like, I already had a sense, and I had already like maybe like said something to like a couple of my friends who were my contemporaries, but like I hadn't talked to my family about it. And at that point I was like, okay, well, this is now going to become a thing. And I think for me, I mean, again, like, as you said, I grew up in a really privileged situation where it was like theater people, and I knew gay people from my birth. And like, it was not a taboo, and it was not something that felt like, how could I possibly be like that? It was like, oh, like I'm like that. So I think it was never, for me, the trepidation of telling my parents was never about like, what's going to be their reaction, or are they going to be accepting? It was more like, it's so awful and uncomfortable to even broach the fact that you're like a sexual being with attraction to your parents.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like,
you're right.
Like regardless of whether it's, a woman or a man or a non-binary person, whatever, like I think that was the thing that was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But then I went on a I went on a class trip in 8th grade. So this was the year after that summer where I had my first dalliance, and I had told a couple of my friends at that point, and on the trip, some of the other kids in my class had heard about it, and there was this like incident that I don't remember so much of, but what I gather is that like it was perceived by the like teachers and chaperones as like a bullying thing, but it really was not. Where like there was this guy who was like telling me that he was so jealous of me because like I was gay, and therefore all of the girls would like tell me all of who they liked, and they would let me like hang out with them in their like hotel rooms on the trip, and they would like confide in me, and he was like, I'm so jealous, like because I like you're gay, you get to do whatever, blah, blah. And it was just like true. Like all my friends were girls, and like they were telling me all the tea, and like like that. It was not him. It was not him being like you're a faggot or anything like that. So like I did not, you know, I didn't want it to be perceived the way that I could feel it was about to be perceived, and so that's the thing that like pushed me over the edge to be like, I better just tell my parents. So I called them from that trip before that there could be like someone else telling them, and was just like, this thing happened and it's gonna come up, and I just want you to know, like I have to tell you something. And my mom was like, is this about your sexuality? And I was like,
I love it.
I was like, yes. So they knew. They were like not surprised. They were like, we have all these books that we've already been reading. And
that's
so
touching.
That's really touching. Yeah.
Yes, and one can only hope that is more and more so the norm of this sort of non-event until there's no event whatsoever, really.
Non-event, I love that.